Welcome to the Creative Youth Agency podcast, and this is going to be a home of continuous conversations that affect us. For example, climate change, education and schooling. We're talking about business and entrepreneurship, and also equity. And in the last episode, we were talking about what climate change is, like a whole overview of it, and we're with Simon. And today in the studio, in this episode, I have Michael Kazinja. Michael Kazinja is a producer, a script writer, and he has also produced a couple of documentaries on a couple of things, and also works with Vision Group. So he's a man who wears many hats, very conversational man. And today here, we're going to be talking, because since he has shot a couple of documentaries, I'm very certain that he has seen people and also worked on documentaries where people are being affected by hunger, of which hunger has also come as a consequence of climate change, and maybe characters of people on land. And Michael, how are you doing? And welcome to the Creative Youth Agency podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
There's another way of saying how are you. That's one thing I learned when someone says, "Are you okay?" I said, just asking you, "How are you?" So the response usually is the same. Otherwise, here we discuss a couple of things, but we are in a times where the conversation on climate change is not leaving our lips. In every corridor you move into political corridors, environmentalists, you can see NEMA is drumming drums every single now and then and talking about climate change. But today I want us to discuss the contribution of humans to this climate change issue, especially because we interact directly with land. We are the farmers, we are the ones who do all these kind of things on land. So far, what do you think is the human, like, umuntu wa wansi here, contribution to to this climate change issue that is happening today and what we are experiencing today?
Thank you so much for that. First and foremost, we need to understand that we are what the climate or the environment is. So the environment that you are in, it's you who creates it. First and foremost. So when we look at the basics, the basic needs that we need, food, shelter, so forth, medical and things like that. So the things that affect the climate or the environment that we're in today are from the activities that we do in order to satisfy our basic needs. So an example, I've moved to several parts of Uganda, and you will find people doing, trying to make money out of charcoal, for instance, like the Karamoja region. So you will hardly find green vegetation in that area, in some parts of Karamoja, because they're trying to make money. So you'll find them cutting down trees to create charcoal, to make charcoal, to make a living. So what comes out of that is that the seasons for farming will change. And you have noticed, of late in Uganda, the seasons have shifted. In the past, it would be something different, and you know that it's predictable that in such and such a month, we will be planting. But today, it's a different story. So the activities that we do, things like cutting down trees, things like not respecting the environment itself by maybe excavating particular areas that are not supposed to be excavated, and you end up with things like mudslides in particular areas, failing to adhere to government warnings in places like Bududa, where bad farming is done and the soil loses its texture. You get, and all these at the end of the day, they will affect us. They will bring us poverty because we cannot grow food. The seasons have changed. Definitely, scarcity of food will be there. When there is scarcity, there is poverty. Definitely, and we will have problems with our health. What happens? The environment is already affected. You find that we are having floods. Floods which will make even transportation difficult. An example is places like Kasese.
Okay. Now that sounds a little bit difficult, especially when we talk about Kasese mudslides and then Bulambuli mudslide, which has been on actually for a very long time. But the other time I was watching the president speak, I don't know, it's a month or two now, and he was speaking about swamps. People have entered into swamps. How are people getting, first of all, into these swamps without, consequence? They could just get into the swamps, and our swamp cover is now gone. How do people get into these spaces?
Well, it's it's an interesting question because you cannot separate misuse of environment from corruption. Yeah. So leaders lead by example.
Yeah.
So we have had leaders misuse their powers and invade on this kind of environment or these swamps. So there's no way you expect these other people, the citizens themselves, not to follow suit. So, and at the end of the day, once these swamps that some people are using to get things like fish, to put up things like beaches or recreative centers. I don't know whether you are aware of a recreative center by a gentleman in government in Nansana, where he cleared part of the swamp to create a recreation center. So there is no way you expect other people in the rest of the country not to follow suit. And where are we going?
So it's just it's abuse of power, but also not trying to adhere to warnings that once you get into the swamps, you're going to have garbage falling on us probably because people have even built in wrong places. We are going to see houses falling on people.
People helping themselves in those swamps because they don't have proper sanitation.
Oh, okay. I didn't say that one. But yeah, you're right, because I've also seen that. So what happens? For example, I'm much more interested in the farming bit of it. What do you think is going to look? What do you think the future is going to look like with these continuous habits and how man is behaving on land, and seasons are changing. I can see Senene nowadays is coming in December.
Yeah.
Not the November that partly now November, now it's shifting. This year, even in January, it was there. So we may not have the Mwezi going Senene anymore, but that's what it is called. So what does the future look like in terms of agriculture, facing the effects of climate change?
I think agriculture is going to be expensive because now we have to end up investing in innovative ways of the likes of Egypt to irrigate because there's no water. The dry seasons are aggressive because there are no trees. I see hunger because less food is going to be grown. Yeah, there's going to be scarcity of food. Health-wise, I see us struggling because people won't get the balanced diet they need to get. Probably even the floods or even the swamps that are being encroached on. Diseases are going to come out of that. And that brings back the question of what is government going to do? Because health issues are going to come out of that. Poverty is going to come out of that. You're creating job opportunities, but you're not taking care of the environment. Yes. So the future is scary.
Okay, so when you talked about diseases and then the floods, and I was seeing another issue of cholera. Remember, there's a time we had of cholera. We have actually floods. Look at our capital city, Kampala alone.
Terrible.
If a drizzle, not even a full rainfall, a drizzle happens, cars are floating. You may think there is a boat that is passing.
Well, they better bring the boats.
Yet your Vitis is the one that is being flagged. So we have an issue, and this water sometimes is being channeled. The other time we were seeing in the paper, was it papers? I think it was both in the papers and TVs, what was happening in the Chivuko channel when they were trying to build over it, and then water entered into people's shops plus some other houses. Now I'm assuming if people are excreting in those places, diseases are coming.
Right.
What a tough time this is going to be.
Yeah.
Now, let's assume, not even assume because it's here. You've been to the Karamoja region. Finding green is not something that is going to be so easy. But now, it looks like that we might have to develop other ways of doing what we do to be able to feed the nation. And before we came on camera, we were talking about greenhouses.
Yes.
What are some alternatives that we have if we are not stopping the habits? Okay, let's assume now it's gone. What other alternatives do we have to preserve the land, the environment, the good weather, the good climate that we had? Okay, even if we are to mitigate, like Simon said in the previous episode, what are some of these things we can go back to and then stay in a good breathable environment?
Okay, I'll appreciate this one. I would say mindset change. First and foremost, mindset change in a way that cutting down trees is not the only way for you to make money and get out of poverty.
Yeah.
Selling that land for a particular investor to excavate whatever they are doing is not the only option. And look, government letting these corrupt officials encroach on these wetlands and so forth is not the only way to contribute to the economy of this Uganda. So we need to go back to the basics. Plant trees.
Plant more trees.
Yes. Respect the environment. If it's a swamp, it's a swamp. Leave it.
So now we've seen people talking about plastics. We've seen emyala. There's a way they call it, but we've seen rubbish enter into trenches and things like that. What do we do to reduce on the plastic disposable? I don't know, but we've thrown a lot of things to the soil, and I've seen scientists talk about how bad they are to the soil, eating out the quality of the soil, and also blocking drainages. But do you really think it's a reality that we can stop producing plastics? What alternatives do we have here now?
It will be a progressive process. Yeah, because like they say, charity begins at home. These are things that need to start away from home, school. For instance, New Vision has a project called Green Schools, where they encourage learners to plant trees, or students to plant trees. So if this kind of initiative, let's say the government picks it up and says, hey, whenever you do good dumping of the garbage, this is what you get. Because now we Ugandans have become stubborn